First of all, Emily did a great job, didn't she? I think we ought to take this show on the road. Happy Labor Day. I want to thank Mayor Cranley for being here, Representative Alicia Reese, thank you for being here, and thank you for your leadership on the Democratic Platform Committee and your leadership for expanding voting rights. We Democrats are favored making it easier to vote, not harder to vote. I want to thank Chairman David Pepper, Chairman of the Ohio Democratic Party, and I want to thank Pete McClendon. And they were reminding me backstage, although I didn't need any reminders, that 24 years ago, on Labor Day, I was here. And I know it's hard to believe, but it was not quite, but almost as crazy as it is now. We had rising inequality, rising poverty, stagnant wages, and a third-party candidate that said the political system was all wigged out. And you gave me a chance. Ohio voted for me, and I'll never forget it. On this day, we came on the bus. Hillary and Al Gore and me, we were here together. And I'll never forget it. And you had the best darn corn crop that year I ever saw in my life. And I went all through these farming areas, you know, and I always tell everybody, I believe I'll be, and I hope I am, the last American president ever to live on a small farm without indoor plumbing. It makes a great political story, you know, common man, born in a log cabin, you built yourself, all that stuff. But believe me, in the wintertime, the outhouse is way overrated. And actually, it is in the summertime in the South because the snakes come out. But I was here, and I love this event. And I love going through all the little towns and going through all the farm fields. And I realized there's a reason why elections in Ohio are often close, but often determine who gets to be the president. Of all the states in the country, you have the best distribution across the state of mid-sized cities. You're a great manufacturing state. You're a great agricultural state. You have great universities. And one of them in particular had a pretty good football game on Saturday. But anyway, some people spend a lifetime and don't score that many touchdowns. I don't know. But anyway, I've always felt close to Ohio. I've always been grateful. I was grateful in 92, I was grateful in 96, and I was grateful when you voted for Hillary in the primary. It meant more to me than you'll ever know. But I want to talk about you today. This is Labor Day. And one of the things I always notice is in every election, it often gets a little crazy. And this is an unusually crazy election. There are objective reasons for that. All over the world, that financial crash 8 years ago has had a very long tail. All over the world, the economic and the political order is under attack for good reasons. A lot of people feel left out and left behind. In the United States, after inflation, 80% of the people have not gotten a pay raise in 8 years. The average family is living on about what they were after inflation the last day I was president. And so this election ought to be about how do we get stronger together? How can we increased prosperity and increased fairness. More economic growth, fair economic growth. How can we live and work together? Because you can't have an inclusive economy if you don't have an inclusive society. We need to protect voting rights. We need to pass immigration reform. We need to support both the police and the community people so that we don't have people afraid to go outside at night or in the daytime. We got to do this together. And in order to do it, we need our head on straight, because I have never seen the lack of effort of people trying to get you to think about something else. Anything else. God forbid we should have an election based on what's best for you and your future. Right? Oh, they even went after my foundation last week. Now that was really funny to me. Somebody asked me what I thought about it. I said, well, here's what I did. I was sort of Robin Hood, except I didn't rob anybody. I just asked people with money to give it to people who didn't have money. And we tried to use it in America and around the world to save jobs, to create jobs, and to save lives. So look, let's take a good Ohio example. One of our best partners was Procter and Gamble. They made a commitment at our Clinton Global Initiative several years ago that they would save one life somewhere on the planet every hour of every day as long as the company is in existence. And they have. And I visited their projects all around the world. They kept their word. They have put out billions and billions of clean water packets that cost, I don't know, 10 or 15 cents a pack, and will give a poor family in a remote village in Africa each pack enough to support the family for 3 or 4 days for a dime. It's amazing. Now, is there something wrong with that? To me. Then, I work with the labor movement. Let's come home. I worked with the labor movement. 5 years ago, I went to the president of AFL-CIO and I said, look, we're not creating any jobs. The Congress is hostile now to the president, trying to stop him every which way he turns. We need a big infrastructure program. The public employee pension funds are in good shape. A lot of the private ones aren't. You ought to take some of that money away from Wall Street and invest it in an infrastructure program. You can earn a rate of return, stabilize your own retirement, and put the American people back to work in unions and stabilize their pensions. Whoa. And what happened? What happened? Well, led by the AFT and all the building trades, they came to our event. I worked with them for several months to put this together, and they promised to spend $10 billion retrofitting buildings with union labor. Well, guess what? The people did it. They made money. They created jobs. So they kept upping the commitment. The commitment is now $16.5 billion. It is the largest private infrastructure program in the United States. $12.5 billion of that money has already been deployed, and more than 100,000 jobs were created. Good union jobs. That also helped to improve the retirement systems and earn money for the public employee unions that invested. Now, is there something wrong with it? Then there's this terrible drug epidemic we're all suffering from all over America. 5 children of 5 friends of Hillary's and mine have died in it. 5 times I have had to call grieving mothers and fathers. This is an equal opportunity killer, but it is the first drug epidemic in my lifetime where the highest addiction rates are in small towns in rural America, where the worst economy is. And Hillary was the first candidate to go out and offer a $10 billion plan to bring treatment and prevention all over America, concentrated in those areas that have been left out and left behind. So I wanted to know what we could do. And we raised a little money, and we found two great drug companies, little companies. One was called CIO, and they made this auto-injection version of naloxone, or Narcan, you may call it, that brings people back from the dead. If they're overdosed, if you give it to them, they're okay for an hour, and you got an hour to get to the hospital. And the price was slashed dramatically so we could get it to first and second responders all over America. And then we found another little company called Adapt, and they offered nasal spray naloxone, which is any of us could administer that. And the FDA in this government approved it in record time, and now we're putting it free in every high school in America. Is there something wrong with that? Oh, I could go on and on. Our healthcare affiliate now has negotiated drug prices for AIDS drugs and malaria drugs that are the least expensive, high-quality medicine on earth. And of the 18.5 million people alive in non-rich countries, 11.5 million are on these contracts, including 75% of all the little kids that are alive. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But anyway, what's that got to do with you? Because this is a classic example of what always happens in political campaigns when somebody wants you to stop thinking. You should vote for the person who will be best for you, your family, your community, your state, and your nation. That's what you ought to do. And I think you ought to vote for Hillary because I think we're stronger together than stronger apart. I think you ought to vote for Hillary because she's got the best ideas to create new jobs and raise incomes, more growth and fairer growth. A major infrastructure program, roads, bridges, ports, airports, universal access to broadband all over rural America and other places that have been left out and left behind. Special incentives to invest in areas with higher unemployment rates than the national average. Special incentives for companies and unions to support job training programs for people that don't need four-year college degrees to get good middle-class jobs if they have the skills. There's more than 1 million of those jobs open on Labor Day that have not been filled. Affordable college for everybody. If your income's under $125,000, tuition-free college at the nearest public university. For everybody else, enough aid and work study to graduate debt-free. And for the people who already have debt, first of all, Hillary was the first person to point out in this campaign that a college debt is the only loan you cannot refinance. How crazy is that? So if you allowed the refinancing on today's interest rates, overnight 20 million people would save more than $2,000 apiece on average. Then she would give everybody the option to pay their debt off in one of two ways. Through doing a couple of years of public service, or through converting the debt into a mortgage. Now you think about it. Every person in this audience today who's under 30 has a 50% chance of living to be 100 without the threat of Alzheimer's or dementia because of the advances in the Human Genome Program. In other words, you get a 20 or 30-year mortgage on a home, a college education is worth more to you for a longer period of time than any home you'll ever buy. So she said we should give people the option, no matter how much they borrow, to pay it off over 20 years. And the option never, ever, ever to have to pay more, no matter how much they owe, than 10% of their after-tax income per month. Now think what that means. Think what that means. Fewer people drop out. More people graduate on time. You can move out of your parents' house. Your parents can get you out of the house. If ever there were a win-win situation, right? Today, no young person with a college debt can go to the bank and get a small business loan no matter how good their ideas are because their credit rating is shot. But if the bank knew that under no circumstances could you pay more than 10% a month, and Hillary has proposed suspending loan repayments for the first 3 years for all new small business owners. Just don't let them pay till they've been in 3 years. We can get going. So if we do this right, with education and job training, with an infrastructure program, that's a big piece of this. She also has proposed ways to increase other small business loans. The whole time I was your president, we were never out of the top 5 in America in new business formations. We are not in the top 10 now. The good news is that the Congress passed and the President signed that Dodd-Frank bill, and it will keep Wall Street from wrecking Main Street, and it was worth a lot to get that done. We don't want that to happen again. The bad news is, even though the law attempted to carve out small loans, there are a lot of banks that impose enormous compliance costs on small business applications. Suppose you wanted to borrow $50,000 to start an organic bakery here. If it costs the bank as much to process your loan as it does a $5 million loan, there won't be so many $50,000 loans, right? That's what's happening. Hillary is the only person in this campaign talking about this. How to get small business lending going. How to modernize manufacturing. You have 2 members of Congress from Ohio, Congressman Tim Ryan, the head of the House Manufacturing Caucus, and Senator Sherrod Brown, who know more about manufacturing, I believe, than any other members of the Congress in either party. They agree that her program would help to generate an enormous amount of investment. And finally, the mayor was talking to me today about the last big bipartisan bill I signed. It's called the New Markets Tax Credit, where you can get up to a 39% tax credit if you invest in an area of high unemployment or high poverty, and he's still using it. And it's created a very large number of jobs for a very small amount of money. Hillary is proposed to make it simpler, bigger, and broader so we can go down to eastern Kentucky or southern West Virginia or out into any rural part of America which feels left out and left behind and tell people, here's what you get if you invest there. We'll give you affordable broadband within. We'll give you a good modern electrical transmission system so you'll have affordable clean power. We'll give you 500 million solar panels in the next 4 years. But you got to invest there, and you ought to, because it'll be cheaper. So we can all be stronger together. Now, that's the reason you ought to be for her. The second reason is that she never got anything done in Washington that didn't have strong Republican as well as Democratic support. Not as First Lady, not as a Senator from New York, not as Secretary of State. Oh, I know they're being mean to her now, but that's just what they do. You've been watching them long enough to know that. I had one of those guys tell me one time, he said, I hate the way we treat you, but if we fought you fair, you'd beat us all the time. So they have to, they try to delegitimize you, you know. Because if you're thinking you're not going to vote for their guy, you're going to vote for her. And you can't take that seriously. There is nothing they can do or say that'll make her close the door on honest, honorable negotiations. The United States Constitution was written to force honorable compromise. It was written to force it. And you need somebody that's got a proven record of getting it done. And the final thing I want to say is, she's the only person with the standing and the understanding to keep us safe enough and give us space enough to grow our way out of the trouble we've been in and lead the rest of the world to a better place. That's why, if you look at it, you may have noticed that a very significant number of prominent Republicans have endorsed Hillary. And why? The overwhelming number of them cite national security. So the next time you hear them going on and on about these email things, remember what Leon Panetta, who was CIA chief and defense secretary, said: this is a mountain out of a molehill. Don't fall prey to making mountains out of molehills and then making molehills out of mountains. The reason, therefore, is she, as President Obama says, best qualified person that any of us had a chance to vote for, including me and you. But the most important thing is we've got to grow together. We've got to be stronger together. We can't afford to be divided by race and religion and sexual orientation and all this other stuff that has been thrown out like hot boiling water on us in every election for decades. We live in an interdependent world. A Greek American who was the commander-in-chief of NATO, Admiral Stavridis, was on television the other night, and they asked him what they thought about Hillary's opponents, claimed that the military was a disaster and he was going to throw money in it. And he said, well, it's not a disaster. It's a national treasure. And he said, the second thing he said was, there are 2 or 3 things where we could use a little more money, but we don't need near that much money. And he said, I want my fellow Americans to know I wore my uniform for 35 years, in combat and in command. We are not going to kill our way out of this crisis. We're going to have to talk our way, work our way, and relate our way out of this crisis. We live in an interdependent world. Which is why I was especially proud that Hillary's the first candidate to say, we need to stop this religious bigotry. We need all the Muslims we can find who love freedom and hate terror to stand with us. And if they give a son who dies wearing the uniform of this country, they ought to be honored, not made fun of. So, final thing I want to say is this. The union movement is very important to the success of this agenda. Important to our efforts to expand voting rights, not restrict them. Important to our efforts to keep the National Labor Relations Board in progressive hands. The President's done a good job of that. We've got to keep going with that. And important to maintaining a balance. On Labor Day, I think you might be interested to know I've got a friend who has been wildly successful in business and only owns companies outside of America. He developed a gift for he turned a bank around in Egypt in the middle of the Arab Spring. And he said to me, he said, you know, I don't agree with Mr. Trump's trade policy, but it is true. We need to recognize that a lot of these other wealthy countries, they don't view these trade deals like we do. They make a deal, and then that's where they think the negotiation begins. I said, give me an example. He said, I got a company in Japan. If I wanted to open a plant in Vietnam to serve Vietnam, they'd give me a brass plaque. But if I wanted to close the company in Japan and move it to Vietnam, they would run me out of the country. Because the other countries are not dominated by shareholders demanding short-term returns. Companies say, we're going to listen to our workers, our communities, our customers, our shareholders, and we're going to keep investing in the future to increase productivity, so we'll be here 10 years from now, or 20 years from now. And we're going to share our profits fairly. You just got to decide if you think we're stronger together. We need you. No Republican has ever been elected president of the United States since the first one ran in 1856 without carrying the state of Ohio. Not one time. I was declared the Democratic nominee at the convention in 1992 when Ohio voted and put me over the top. On election night in 1992, when Ohio came in, they declared me the winner. And what I want you to know is Hillary wants every one of you to be winners and believes you can be. But we have to do this together. We got to get over all this stuff. So I'll leave you with a happy story. The two most impressive things I saw in the primary campaign when I was traipsing around were union job training programs. Everywhere. They were amazing. Adding to the value of the workforce. The other thing was the nano satellite program in eastern Kentucky at Morehead State. Now, you all know what nanotechnology is. It's super small computer power. So I got the first $500 million from Congress of your money. I spent $500 million of your money to pioneer this. And the agencies that liked it started making partnerships with universities. So NASA, the space agency, made a partnership with MIT, with Caltech, and Morehead State. So I go over there one day, and they invited me to come see what they'd done. There were 8 graduate students and about 16 undergraduates. The 8 graduates were 6 from the Middle West, a man from Ukraine and a man from Hanoi, Vietnam. But the 16 undergraduates, 100% from eastern Kentucky. So they take me in and they show me these nano satellites they're building to go up in space. They say, you got to understand, these things will do most of what those huge communication satellites will do. They cost $400 million. These cost $1 million a piece and weigh about 8 pounds. It's a lot less space junk. I never held $1 million in my hand before, but it's kind of interesting. But they looked otherwise just like satellites. So then I go and watch them. And I walked up over the shoulder of this young man, 19-year-old from eastern Kentucky. And he's stuffing all this computer power in this little container. It's about 1.25 inches cube. I said, what's that container made out of? And he looked at me and he said, tungsten. It does real well in outer space. And he said, we're going to send this up on a rocket and put it on the International Space Station and see what it'll do. 19 years old. In the heart of coal country, where everything is supposed to be despair and the future does not exist. So we talked a little, and then I wish him well, and I'm walking off. He said, wait a minute, President Clinton. He said, you tell Hillary, don't let people make fun of her when she says we're going to put up 500 million solar panels in the next 4 years. He said, actually, I think she's a little low. I said, what do you mean? He said, oh, heck, he said, within a couple of years, we'll be making solar panels with these 3D printers. And they'll be just as good as the ones now. They'll be cheap as dirt. We can put them everywhere. People's electric bills will go down. More jobs will be created. We'll move away from the worst consequences of climate change and create a whole new economy, and we'll all be free. Now, why am I telling you this? I have no idea if that young man's prediction will turn out exactly like he said, but he's got the most important thing of all. He believes he can make tomorrow better than today. And you know as well as I do that the major cause of road rage in this election is that there are too many people whose jobs have gone away, who are frustrated about their ability not only to take care of themselves and their families, but to give their kids a better future. we got to give people that sense of upward mobility again. That's why it's not just jobs and incomes, it's declining inequality and upward mobility. You want every American to be able to look in the mirror every day and say, I am a person able to chart my destiny, able to create a future, able to make choices that will make a difference. If you believe that, you can't afford to be sucker punched into casting a resentment vote, even if it's for Hillary. We don't need anger, we need answers. We don't need resentment, we need empowerment. And we live in an interdependent world whether we like it or not, so we got to be stronger together to be stronger at all. Please, give us another 1992. Give us another 2012 when you came through for President Obama when people said you wouldn't. And give us the next great chapter in American greatness. Happy Labor Day. God bless you. Thank you.